All right, I was told not to let it go too long because you guys would go all day. That's something about okay. That's something nice about a church is when we go and meet and greet and talk, it can go on for a long time. That's the sign of a good, healthy church family. So thank you guys for having me in this morning. I know I'm young. Yay! Some are happy, some are like, well, I could probably do a better job, and you probably could. My name is Carter McFarland. I am from Canada. I hear Sam is from Canada as well. I thought he sounded like a good guy when I was on the phone with him. And I moved here in 2019 and went to Moody Bible for my undergrad and Wheaton College for my master's, and now I'm serving as a youth pastor at a church in Glen Ellen Bible Church. I've been there almost 2 years, and I'm just loving it. I can't believe that I get to wake up and my job is to share the gospel with students and to help them walk through some of the biggest stages of their life, and just keep pointing them to Jesus. It's just like something I just love to do. But yeah, I'm from a little small town in Saskatchewan, Canada, a town of 150 people. My dad was a dairy farmer, and then he moved to the oil field, and he's been working. Now he drives a truck, and he's been doing that for a while. My mom's an accountant for all the farmers in the area, so that's a little bit of who I am. I'm also big news. I'm getting married in January. So, to a beautiful girl I met a couple of years ago, a year and a bit ago, and so you can be praying for me as there's lots of big decisions and lots of money that we're paying that we don't have. All right, let's get into God's Word. Romans 12. When I got a call a text Thursday morning from Sam, asking if I could speak, that wasn't a huge window between then and now. And so I am tweaking my message that I'm giving to my students tonight. But sometimes, like when you read books sometimes when you read children's books or you listen to family movies, there's a message there that even when you're older, connects with. Like, I don't know if you have Max Lucado, You Are Special. You guys know that? The Giving Tree. Or C.S. Lewis's Narnia series. Like, these are books that no matter how old you get, maybe you take more away from them the older you get. And so my prayer is that maybe a message pointed at students, tweaked a little bit, that it'll do the same for you guys. And I trust in God's timing and sovereignty that it will. So what we're talking about this evening at Reckless is the youth group that I oversee, and we're talking about how to share our faith. And when I think about how to share your faith, a passage that comes to me is Romans 12. And so let's turn to Romans 12. Some people I've heard call this the playbook for the Christian life. So let's start in Romans 12, and we're just going to read the first 5 verses. So Romans 12, verse 1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. I'm excited about this topic of sharing our faith. Like, how do we share our faith? I would say it's one of my passion points, as that probably is for a lot of us here is how to share our faith in the Christian walk. It's what we're called to do, is to share the gospel with those who don't know it. And with high school students, it's a question I get fairly often. They're always in high school, and they're trying to, they believe in Jesus, but they're trying to walk the line of like, how I want to fit in. I want to not stand out so much that I'm irrelevant, that I'm weird. I want to fit in. And it's this common question, how do I share my faith in a way that like includes other people but doesn't, I don't know, there's just always this question that they're always asking. And yes, when I think about this question, I think of Romans 12, and it's this call to live our lives as living sacrifices. And with this chapter, two questions come to my mind. It's, well, what is your faith? What do you actually believe in? And then two, how is your testimony? What do people think when they see you? How do they know you? And my thoughts go there because of what Paul writes to the Christians in Rome. He says, therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship. This is your true and proper worship. In the previous 11 chapters of Romans, Paul is writing to Christians in Rome, and he's covering the basics of what the good news is found in Jesus Christ. He writes about how people shouldn't be ashamed of the gospel. He writes about what we deserve as people who have sinned against God. But he also writes about how loving and generous God is by sending his son for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died in our place so that we can have life through him. And he also gives if you keep going in Romans, he gives the Christians kind of like a history lesson of what God's plan was from the beginning, what he was always going to do, and how amazing and merciful God is. And when we open our Bibles to Romans 12, we are entering into a spot where Paul is getting into the now what section of his letter. The how should we live if we believe this section of the letter. He writes, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Paul is calling those who understand the good news of Jesus Christ to offer their lives to God, sacrificing themselves to God, who shows them an immense amount of mercy each and every day, because that is the way to worship and show gratitude to the one who gave them life. But a key factor in this verse that we can't miss, which creates the motivation and really ability to offer our lives to God as a living sacrifice, is the line that kind of everything hangs on, understanding the mercy of God. He says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. He doesn't just say, I urge you, brothers and sisters, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. He says, in view of what you've understood, in view of what you believe, offer. This brings me back to the first question that I think, back to the first question we need to think about when sharing our faith, which is, what is our faith? What do we actually believe? You see, a lot of us growing up in the burbs of Chicago assume a lot when we hear the word faith, because we live in such a religious community. According to a Pew Research, a study in 2023, 2024, 59% of people in the Chicago metro area identify themselves as Christians. 6 out of 10 people say, yeah, I'm a Christian. If you ask them what their faith is, I'm a Christian. It's a part of the culture we live in, so we should all have an answer to that question of what is our faith. As followers of Jesus, what do we actually believe? Because we've got the Sunday school answers. We've been taught that well. We know the things to do. It's part of the culture we live in. But what would you say if someone asked you, what is your faith? What do you actually believe? And this may seem like an easy question, and maybe to a certain extent it is. But a few months ago with the high school students, we were in this series called We Live in a Messy World. So what does the Bible say about ... And one night we were talking about anxiety and what the Bible says about it. And with the help of this book called The Anxiety Opportunity, which is a great book that I would encourage anyone to read by Curtis Chang, we looked at a simple formula that he came up with for how anxiety is generated. And he says anxiety equals loss times avoidance. In other words, anxiety is generated when we fear losing something we value or not getting something we deeply want, and then we multiply that by doing everything we can to avoid losing that. That's what generates anxiety in our lives. And after talking about it, we all agreed that, the students and I, we all agreed that loss is just a reality in our lives. We're going to experience it. And so to spend our whole life trying so hard to avoid the loss is impossible. Death is inevitable, right? Losing things is inevitable, which is a pretty hopeless message for high school students to stomach. But during that night, we got talking about how it's only in the Christian faith will there be true restoration. Everything that will be lost, we will get again. We'll have a new life, purpose, meaning because God is currently transforming us in our lives to be more like Him, we will be able to endure the hardships of life like anxiety, like financial situations that are hard, like difficult health situations. We can get through because we can see that, okay, I might lose this presently, but I know God is going to restore everything someday. And that's what holds us down. But what was interesting to hear was what students said about their faith. Everyone's answer when I asked, like, what is your faith? And they said, well, I believe in Jesus. And then I go, is that it? And they're like, well, I believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins. And when pushed for what that meant, sadly, like the deepest response I got was, this means I get to go to heaven, which is true and awesome. And I'm not gonna lie. When presented with the question myself, and maybe you're thinking about it, well, what do I believe, and what do I actually believe? I sometimes struggle to find the words that seem anchoring enough to fasten me to this when life is really hard, when something has happened, when I don't want to give something up, but God might be calling me to. And I think because we live in this culture where we know that Jesus answers, we don't do the work. Well, here's the problem. If I could put my finger on the major problem when it comes to sharing our faith with our neighbors, it would be this. We have become complacent in finding the words that accurately answer the question of what our faith is, because we just assume we know it, because we probably do, but we still become complacent in explaining it. We defer to the responses that come easy to us, and we don't set our sights on the thing that Paul hangs everything on. He says, it's the mercies of God. For the mercies of God, present yourselves as a living sacrifice. And we tend to focus on, when we think about what we believe, is that faith points to something that happened in the past, the cross, and something that will eventually take place in the future, heaven, which is good and awesome and needed. But in sharing our faith, maybe that's not enough. It's enough for salvation, but we're talking about how to share our faith with our neighbors. And when life gets really hard, or when we enter into seasons of life where sin is just having its way in our lives, and we can't get rid of it, the past and the future events don't always seem tangible enough for us to hold on to what we currently believe in the present. You guys tracking with me? It's good, it's great, it's needed, but in my experience, at least with the high school students, those who are Christians tend to forget about the gospel day to day and what it means for them day to day. And non-believers, people that we want to reach with the gospel, tend to not really care about what happened in the past and something that goes on in the future. They're living in the present. They're going, what about right now? How often do we space out in our Christian walks and give in to our human desires, knowing full well in the moment that it's wrong? And I would say, at least for me in my experience, too often. Because as humans, we like quick fixes, and we like to control the things that are going on in our lives. And it's funny, we roll our eyes at the Israelites in the wilderness who one day loved the Lord in one moment, and the next day are asking the Lord to go back to Egypt. We love the Lord in one moment, but go back to our sinful ways in the next. And especially when life gets hard. And the reason we do that is that we lose sight of all the mercies God is currently showing us in our lives. And instead, look at something else. We put the gospel on audio, and we put the gospel and audio and our eyes on somewhere else. An example of this is a couple of weeks ago, I was watching the football game on Thursday night, and Samantha, my fiance, came in after work, and we had a couple of hours before she went home to kind of talk, and because I was such a good guy, I turned the volume down on the game. And she started talking to me and asking me about my day, and I did the thing. Like I asked the questions. I nodded along. I hemmed and hawed, and I was this, but my eyes were on the game. And suddenly I was in trouble. Because though I was listening to her, my attention, my eyes were focused on something else. And she could tell that I wasn't present. I'd put Sam on audio and played the role of a listening fiance, but my eyes were on the game. And where did my attention go? To what I was looking at. And as Christians who have grown up in predominantly Christian culture, we far too often put the gospel, the mercies of God on audio, and set our eyes on whatever else is going on in our lives. We get focused and consumed by the things we see happening in our daily lives. And because our faith, what we really believe the gospel is on audio, our attention is off the mercies of God that haven't just been shown to us in the past, but are constant and visible in our everyday lives. We are constantly being shown daily the mercy of God, but for some reason our attention goes elsewhere. You think about our lives and whatever the thing that you struggle with the most, the sin that you can't get over. Every single day, as believers, we can wake up and go, it's covered. Yes, I'm struggling with this. I'm still struggling with pride. Yeah, I'm still struggling with lust. Yeah, I'm still struggling with not being a good husband. I'm still struggling with not being a good whatever. But every day, the mercy of God, yes, what Jesus did on the cross isn't just something that happened in the past. It's something that is constantly happening. That mercy, we are building our debt with the Lord, and He is constantly pouring out His mercy. And not just saying, I forgive you, but saying, let me walk with you. Let me walk with you through life, and I'll transform you. I'm going to shape you into the person I'm calling you to be. I know you're not right. I know you're not perfect. I know you still struggle with the same thing, but I'm going to walk with you. And there's something about, I wasn't even going to talk about it. Have you guys ever seen that Serena Williams movie with the tennis thing? There's this part of the beginning of the movie where the dad, who's played by Will Smith, had this mark on his life because when he was going through something in his life, his dad walked away. When he failed, his dad walked away. And then a big moment in that movie is when Serena Williams, she was wondering, are you going to walk away when I don't, win? If I don't succeed? And there was a match where she was playing and she was messing up every play. And he stayed there. And he watched her lose. And that was something like that, just what a good father is. And that's the relationship that we have with God. When we mess up, when we constantly lose the battle, He stays there. And He says, don't worry. I've covered it. I paid for it. It might not be good. It might not be right, but I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to sit right with you as you go through it. But a lot of the times in our Christian walks, we forget about that. We forget that God is walking us through life, making us better, providing for us while we need Him. And we just say, my faith is that He died for me and that He's taken me to heaven. It's so much more than that. His mercy is new every morning. And when our eyes aren't constantly looking at the mercies that God is giving us on a day-to-day basis, we tend to stop being the people God is calling us to be, because it's just something that we're hoping to one day get to, and that's it. And that's not really enticing as somebody who's going through life without God, just to think someday, okay, I'm going to be in heaven, when heaven is just like this thought. It's not even like this tangible thing that they understand. When sharing our faith, what's really going to land with people is people are going through stuff. People are searching and slaving away in the day just to fill this void that's in their life. And what we need to show them as believers is that there's a God that wants to walk them through it. And he says, no matter how lost you get, or where you make mistakes, I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to constantly love you through it. I'm never going to stop loving you, no matter how far away you get from me, no matter how long you've been following me, and no matter what you do, no matter how long you follow me, I'm going to stick with you every battle. I'm going to walk through. We're constantly looking. When our eyes aren't constantly looking at the mercies of God, we tend to stop being the people God is calling us to be. Which leads me to the second question I proposed just a little earlier. Is how, when we think about how we can share our faith, is how is our testimony? How is your testimony? Another way to ask this question is, what is your reputation like out in the community? How are you perceived and known by others? Because if we aren't different from anyone else, then why would anyone want what we have to offer? Why would anybody feel the need that Jesus is an answer to this? If they're living a life and they're doing it just as well as we are. They don't even believe in heaven. They might believe in this person named Jesus, but they don't believe that he is God. What does that have to do with anything? Our testimony is 90% of our ability to share our faith. 90% is a number I throw out, but I believe it. 90% of our testimony is our ability to share. Our testimony is 90% of our ability to share our faith. When sharing our faith, some of us focus so much on our apologetics. What we're going to say, how I'm going to trick this person, how I'm going to come around and beat this person and show them that God is real. Some of us focus so much on how many people we can get to a church service, or how many people we can put a Christian thing in front of them, just so they can see it. All good things, all great things, all things we should be doing. But I would argue that 90% of our ability to share our faith is through our testimony. Jesus said, the night he was betrayed, love one another. As I loved you, so must you love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. You love one another. How will people know we are his disciples, the followers of Jesus? Our daily testimonies. The reputations that we have, the way we interact. Our reputations are built on how we interact day to day. What we're known for. Our testimony is 90% of our ability to share our faith. So the question we need to be asking ourselves in the context of where we rub shoulders with people who don't yet know Jesus is, how is our testimony? What is my testimony? What is my reputation like? How do others perceive me? I think there's a big in your hand. Oh, okay. All right. How do others perceive me? Because Jesus said to his followers on the Sermon on the Mount, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything. If we lose our reputations, meaning if people hear that we are followers of Jesus, but only see people who are mean, proud, crude, deceitful, hateful, degrading, or really just like everybody else, then we've lost our saltiness.
We've lost what makes us stand out, what adds flavor to this world. And if the reputation of Christians is exclusive, judgmental, hypocritical, and so on, then we start representing Christ in a way that doesn't please him. And remember, you guys are in this series of like being a family. We are a family, but we're also one body. Paul was saying in Romans 12, for just as one has one body with many members, saying like we got arms and tons of different things in the body, these members do not all have the same function. So in Christ we, as followers of Jesus, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We're in this together. My testimony affects you guys. Your testimony affects me. Because people are looking and they're seeing, oh, you're a Christian? But this is the reputation. This is what I know you for. Jesus continues, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Salt and light, that's who we are in this dark world. So our testimony, how we care, how we love, how we work, how we interact with people is everything. So the question is, how is your testimony? How is mine? We keep looking through Romans 12. Are you someone who loves sincerely? Or you just love generally? Well, yeah, he's a nice guy. I love him. Are you someone who hates evil and clings to what is good? Or are you someone who says, well, there's certain situations that call for certain decisions that I wouldn't normally like to do, but I have to do it? Do you hate evil? Are you someone who devotes themselves to other people, honoring others above ourselves? What's your reputation like? Are you someone with spiritual zeal, living out your faith, serving the Lord? Are you someone who is known to be joyful and full of hope? Are you someone known for being patient, even when life is hard? Are you a person of prayer? Are you known for how you give to those who are in need? Are you known for someone who practices hospitality? Not just in inviting people into your home, but the way you listen and interact with people at work or in school or whatever else. What are you known for? Are you known for someone who surprisingly blesses and forgives those who really wrong you? Are you known as someone who rejoices with other people's success? Are you known for mourning with those who mourn? Are you known for being a peacemaker instead of a peace disturber? Are you known as a proud person? Are you known as someone who shows favoritism? Do you associate yourself with people who are that you feel are less than you? This is all the action steps that Paul is writing out in Romans 12. How is your testimony? Because your testimony is 90% of your ability to share your faith. It is so unbelievable when we say that we have a God who's so good and loving, but we don't reflect that to anyone, except when it makes sense for us. It is so unbelievable to a non-believer for a God to be so good and full of justice when we don't care about the issues that people are going through. And we don't care. Our testimony is 90%. These are the action steps that Paul calls people to as they offer their lives as a living sacrifice to God. Romans 12, the second half, is the playbook of the Christian life. But if I'm honest with you guys, and you guys don't know me very well, I'm not very good at following these action steps. I struggle with it. There's people in my life that are hard to love. And I pray, and I do all the things, but they're hard to love. Every day I got to go, God, I don't like this person. This person bothers me, annoys me. Can you change my heart? But that's what is so important. I'm a follower of Jesus, but I struggle with doing the things on a daily basis. I mess up all the time. The actions Paul lists in this chapter are hard for me, and I assume they're hard for you as well. But that's why it's so important to do the work of actually answering the first question. What is your faith? What do you actually believe? And it's why Paul prefaces this whole chapter by saying, in view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. He's not just saying, be this person, do this. He's saying, view the mercies of God and respond by offering your bodies as a living sacrifice. Yes, the call is to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice to God, because this is the way we ought to live in order to please him. But it's only possible when we are constantly looking and absolutely fixated on the mercies that we are actively receiving by God each and every day. Me going to God and saying, Lord, I'm struggling with loving this person. I know that's wrong. Thank you for still loving me. Because if I treated this person, if you treated me the way I treat this person, constantly not liking them, constantly being frustrated with them, I'd be in a really bad spot. But your mercy continuously pours over on me. And I wake up every day knowing that, God, I'm loved, that God is walking me through my imperfections, and that he is shaping and forming me, and he is so patient when he's doing it. It's mercy, and it's constantly looking at it's when we sin, when we do things that are wrong, it's a perfect opportunity to look right back at the mercies of God. And we do things wrong, we sin every single day. Every day we should be able to look at the mercies of God and go, thank you so much. I am not where you're calling me to be, but I am right where you have me, and you're walking me through it. And that is what if we believe that, if we can say, what do you believe? We can say, I believe that I'm a sinner, and that I've got a lot of things that I need to work on. That right now, if you got to know me, you would see a lot of imperfections. But I believe that Jesus didn't just die on the cross and pay for my sins, yada, yada, yada. I believe that Jesus died on the cross, and he's constantly making me better each and every day. He's shaping and forming me to the person he's calling me to be, so that when I get to heaven, I will finally be the person he's calling me. But right now, this is what I believe. Jesus is constantly showing me his grace, and he's forming me to the person he's calling me to be. And I got a lot left to go, but I'm really excited that I got someone who's walking by me each and every day. If that's our testimony, if that's what we believe, and that's what we're sharing with people, suddenly somebody who's struggling, who's looking to alcohol to fill that void, looking to work to fill that void, looking to their family to fill that void, looking for some money to fill that void, suddenly they're going, I want someone to walk me through this. I want someone to fill that void. And suddenly we have something that they want, something that they didn't realize that they needed. I've been listening to these the Village Church podcasts, their sermons, and every time before they start their message, they get someone else to come up and read the scripture that the pastor is going to be preaching on. This is how they start each one. They start with what they believe. I'll read you a few. Before they get into the message, this person says, "My name is Jonathan Phillips. There was a time in my life where it was marked by an absence father of my life, marked by the absence of my earthly father, but Christ in the gospel has shown me that God is my true father. My name is Kathleen, and there was a time when my life was marked by loneliness, fear, and despair. But because of Jesus, I now belong to the family of God and live with the hope of redemption. My name is Kevin Harris. When I was young, I was insecure, and I often felt ashamed because I connected love and worth to my ability to measure up to the ever-changing standard. And then I met Jesus and gave my life to him. Now I know that nothing I can do will ever change God's perfect love for me, and that on the cross, Jesus took away my guilt and shame. My name is Carter McFarland. I'm someone who struggles with pride and discontentment. And there was a time in my life where I would stop at nothing to get the approval of others. But then I found Jesus. And I'm not perfect, but he's transforming me each and every day to be less proud, more content, and he's given me all the approval I've ever needed. You want to share your faith? What is your faith? What do you actually believe? Because if your faith is just a sentence that easily rolls off your tongue and hopefully someday gets you to heaven, then I don't think you have anything that's good enough for anyone else to want. You want to share your faith? Be absolutely fixed on the endless and relentless mercies of God. Mercies that God shows you each and every single day that are fundamentally changing the type of person you are. His mercy isn't just an event in the past, and it's not only an event in the future. God's mercy is something we receive each and every morning. There's freedom in that, and it's that type of freedom that the world wants. The world craves. The world is seeking after. So how do we share our faith with others? We show them that freedom that they are seeking in this world, through whatever means they choose, is only found in the endless and relentless mercies of God that they can have through faith in him. But in order to do that, we have to be able to answer the question, what do we believe? I'd encourage you to sit down sometime and actually write it out. What do I believe? What are the mercies that God is constantly spilling over on me, that's carrying me through, so that when somebody asks you, what do you believe? You can say more than that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, I'm going to heaven. You can say that. I'm struggling with this, but when I met Jesus, he's walking me through it. I'm becoming a better person. I've got more purpose. I've got more joy than I've ever had in my life. Do you want to know about him? Because as Paul said to the Christians in Rome, if you're looking at the mercies of God, you will undoubtedly, when you are looking at the mercies of God, you will undoubtedly look at yourself and see the mercies that you are constantly receiving, and willingly sacrifice your life to him, which is your true worship for him. Let's pray.